Are you looking for your next wine challenge? Do you want to taste more than 300 wines in 4 days? How about joining a community of passionate, qualified Italian wine specialists and gaining one of the most coveted qualifications in the wine world? Apply now to the Vinitaly International Academy and you'll have all this at your fingertips. Pedro Ballesteros, Master of Wine, says, VIA is the only Italian wine program that delivers high-quality training and serious exams. More details on our website www.vinitalyinternational.com.
Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Hello, this is the Italian Wine Podcast with me, Monty Waldin. My guest today is Jonas Röjerman, Master of Wine. Jonas is the Head of Product Quality at the Assortment and Purchasing Department for the Swedish monopoly. How do you say that?
Systembolaget.
Okay, and just say your name in how you would say it normally.
Jonas Röjerman.
Jonas Röjerman.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. So what is the role of a Head of Product Quality? What do you do? What does that mean?
Systembolaget, that might sound as I work with the standards and certifications and all these things. I actually don't. And since Systembolaget doesn't have their own bottling facility or anything like that, my work is mainly or 100% focused on making sure that since we have a tendering system on joining the assortment or getting onto the shelf, my main focus is to make sure that what's tendered with us on paper and on sensory values is what's coming up on the shelf in the shop. Lots of steps in between, but that's my main focus, making sure that the quality is there on what's in the package.
Okay, so when you say quality, that's a multi-headed hydra. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? You just taste the wine and say, oh, that tastes all right? Or are you actually doing analyses and things like that? And also provenance, is this wine really from, I don't know, Tuscany?
Yes.
So go on.
Do all those things.
So you're a bit of a detective then?
Yeah, I'm the bad cop at Systembolaget, our importers think so, yeah.
So what's a typical day for you then?
Ooh.
You wake up, put your holster on, load, put some bullets in the gun, and then find out those bad boy producers that are cheating. Yeah.
Joke aside, but it is sometimes it is a bit like that. It's an interesting industry, system or the wine industry is quite interesting. But the main thing is Systembolaget is the monopoly on the market, so we are the sole sort of retailer of alcoholic beverages. So our purchasing process and fairness of the game has to be crucially fair to all our importers. Okay,
so importers in Sweden, they can only get wine on the shelf going via the monopoly.
Yes.
So what's your role, obviously, is making sure that the wine is exactly as it said is. Mm-hmm. Does that involve a lot of travel, or are you solely based in Sweden, or a bit of both?
Both.
So go on.
So it really starts on the process when we do our that's the reason why I'm here in Verona. Our tender tasting, it's judged on sensory profiles, so you have to fulfill that, and then we say that this is the best one that we're looking for in that sort of style of wine.
So you may have looking for, I don't know, say Chianti Classico or something.
Yeah.
So you have a blind tasting of producers that want to try and get their wine into the monopoly system.
Yep.
And a sensory analysis is a wine tasting.
Yes.
And you presumably got chemical analyses of the wine as well, their alcohol, acidity, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and so the tasting is run by a panel of 3 members. And I'm in charge for the training and the overall charge of the tasting panel, making sure that they're actually good at what they do. So I'm also involved in how we make the descriptions on the tender tastings, the profiles. Basically, that's run by our purchasers, our buyers, but I'm sort of coordinating the language to see that it's according to it's actually workable when you come to the tasting session. So I'm overseeing the panels, the tasting, the training. When we do buy bigger volumes, and for us that's 100,000 liters plus for 6 months, I actually also do. Straight after the tasting, I go to the producer and make sure that, yes, the wine is there and it's owned by the right persons. We ask for details on grape varieties, which tank you have your wine in. So what I do, I go in and ask them to open the books, and I go through the process from grapes arriving, all the steps through the winemaking, and now they tell us it's in tank 10A. Then I'll look at the process, and then I go out to the tank and I'll actually open the lid and make sure that the wine is there.
Really? It's that thorough?
It's that thorough on our what we call the high risk tenders, which in a year is like 25 to 30, and all we do auditing on those. So traveling, yes, about 60, 70 days a year.
So we won't name any high-risk areas, but can you give me a general example of what would make a high-risk wine a high-risk wine?
The basis volume, because we do the tender tasting, and I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's fairly easy to make a bit better sample than you actually can
have
manage.
In your tank, yeah.
And I usually you have the example that, you did the tender sample and you won, and then you had that 20,000 liters of pretty thin Merlot that you had to blend in to make it financially viable, and then it's not the same wine anymore. So that's why we do it that's why it's high risk. So scaling it up from 9 liters, which might be the tender sample size, to 400,000 liters, that's a bit tricky.
Did you use any, scientific diagnostic tools to see if, say, a wine from even outside of Italy has ended up in an Italian wine?
Yeah, we don't have that technique yet. What we have is it's 2 legs. It's the sensory values, and then we have our own lab. So I have 7 chemists that run our labs, and we do all our own analysis, and it's accredited lab. And we only specialized in beverages, mainly wine. So we have that chemical footprint as well from the start. Together with the audits, I think we're pretty good at saying that, yes, at least when we did the audit, the wines were there and it was all right. And again, like for an example, a big tender could be 120 samples. I would have 119 losers. And for the fairness of the game and the transparency of the Systembolaget, we actually have to go and do these audits. Hopefully in the future, our suppliers will do the audits themselves. But regarding actually getting what we was tendered with, we have to do it still.
How do you write to the people, the 118 that didn't make it? Dear wine producer, I'm terribly sorry to tell you your wine didn't qualify this time.
Well, it's a standard sort of email that goes out if you're not successful in the tasting.
Do you ever get any feedback?
Oh yeah, our purchasers get feedbacks and
any rude words?
Most in the way that, okay, we were out on this one, quality points wise. What can we do and what did I miss? Rather than being very angry, I would say. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's been people that have been angry over times, but yeah.
So, you can say we like the wine, but we felt that this red was a little bit green, the tannins are a bit green, or something like that. So, sort of constructive.
Yeah, if the purchaser wants to give the time and do a bit of feedback, they usually do.
So, have you had cases where you've given a little bit of advice and said, look, we really liked it, but it wasn't, you just missed out because of one little thing and then a couple of years later they actually get one through, and are they like, we took your advice and we're so happy that we now got a tender through and we're in your market? Or was it less personal than that? Yeah,
I would say it's less personal than that. But again, the style profile that we describe on our tenders, if you're a good importer, because it's always in Swedish, and over time asking and questions about why didn't that work and so forth with the purchaser, you will gain knowledge on that. And it's not like there's a secret code in any way. It's pretty straightforward, I would say. And again, I understand if an importer has a producer let's use the Chianti example, and we were asking for a fairly modern style Chianti with perhaps a bit overtones of oak, and you work with a producer in Chianti that is very traditional in its way making it, and he would read that, or she would read that tender and say, yes, I'm a Chianti Classico producer or a Chianti producer. Please tender with my wine. And the importer will maybe struggle to say, no, I don't want to tender with your wines because it's totally wrong style. So they might end up sending it in anyway, just for keeping the good relationship with the producer. And then we taste it, and that's 2 sniff and a sip, and we'll say this is not what we're looking for, so it will score badly. And sadly enough, that producer will have that feedback. No, it didn't work.
Yeah, we did tell you.
In the description.
Yeah.
So that sometimes happens, and I can understand that producer gets a bit annoyed by that.
Well, they were told though, if you give us a slightly old style oaky wine that's quite evolved, we want something that's fresh and fruity, and you send it in and it doesn't get through. So look, we did tell you. It's not like we didn't.
No.
We were pretty clear. We wrote to you and it was in black and white.
We are very transparent and very clear.
Yeah.
Then it's a fearsome competition, but that's on any market, I would say.
Okay, so what are Swedes drinking, and in what volumes and what with? Food on its own at home, in restaurants? How does it work?
Well, fair bit of wine is consumed at home. Yeah, absolutely. The restaurant side, as far as I know, it's thriving at the moment. It's going very, very well. So a fair bit of the really niche products ends up on restaurants.
So how would you, a niche product would be what, like natural wine or?
Yeah, we feature natural wines as well, but some of the really smaller importers in Sweden, they mainly work through the restaurant in the bigger cities in Sweden, like Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö. Yeah, so, but we have them as well, but not to the extent that if you're a specialized natural wine importer, you only deal with that.
So in terms of what's the monopoly view for organic wine? Are you trying to focus on that or not?
I would say that we've been a driving force to build that assortment within our shops. So we had a goal that we will pass 10% in 2020. And I think that's almost 2 years plus now since we actually achieved that goal. So if I remember correctly, we're up to 13, almost 14% of our offering is organic.
So to give everybody an idea, that globally roughly about 5% of the global wine grape vineyard is organic. So you're kind of 3 times ahead of what's happening in the field.
And it's funny, we drove it in the sense that they had priority in the evaluation of the assortment and so forth, and we kept on putting out the tenders, and today it's at one stage it just took off. So it doesn't need any extra support today. It's a strong factor for sales in Sweden.
So what can happen sometimes with organic wines, which I've heard in the Canadian monopoly, is some residual sprays that were sprayed maybe 20 or even 30 years ago, residues of that can still end up in an organic wine. Do you do tests on that to see if people have been cheating or not?
We can't run pesticides on our own laboratory, yet we do projects around that. So once a year at least we do send samples and look at that, and sometimes we have some negative results on things that's supposed to be organic. Quite recently we found out there was a European/Spanish producer that actually had residuals in his their organic wine. We did an investigation, and it's ended up like they stopped that because they have to rebuild the winery because it was transmitted during handling both conventional and organic wines in there. So that's a error at the winery, but that's one thing that we found in our studies. So yes, we do it, but on a limited scale.
But in that case, obviously they haven't cleaned a tank properly or something, which is already dumb. Yeah. But they weren't actually doing anything kind of illegal. Are they still welcome back, or do they have like a yellow card against them or something? Or
no, we are very. There's a cartoon in Sweden called Bamse, and he's so strong that he has to be so kind. And sometimes I think the monopoly we are very forgiving, and yes, the producer will absolutely be welcome back. And that's part of being a monopoly. We can't pick and choose who we actually make business with.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, some people may disagree with me, may even disagree with you, but it wasn't like the producer or she did it deliberately. They were just maybe did something a bit, they were a little bit lackadaisical. Again, some people disagree with me, but it's nice that you're giving them a second chance. I guess if it happens again, then you'll say, listen, buddy, we've warned you once, and now...
Yeah, we have in our agreement with the suppliers, we have a
protocol
that we actually can reject if they have repeatedly had quality problems with us.
What are the trends, I mean, away from your day job? Obviously, you travel around a lot. What are your favourite regions, particularly in Italy? Don't worry, you won't get marked on this. Just like you like what places that you like physically, as in the landscape or the wine styles. You as a consumer, just a normal regular guy.
Well, I'm not. I'm not a regular
just
guy.
Just pretend that you are.
Yeah, I'm hard to pretend that. Yeah, Italy. I've seen a bit too little of the southern parts of Italy. I would say they don't get on to be part of my judgment. But of course, I like many others, love the Piemonte and the picturesque Barolo and that part of the world. It's pretty amazing, actually.
So when you're at home and you happen to have a bottle of Barolo or Barbaresco on the table, what is a local dish that your favourite sort of dish with the family?
Then I would ask my wife to make a risotto, of course.
Risotto, okay.
Risotto with chanterelles.
With a little bit with chanterelles?
Yeah. And
are you vegetarian?
No.
Okay, so what about a carnivorous dish with Barolo Barbaresco? What's a typical dish in Sweden then?
Oh, typical dish, that's Tacos. That's a very traditional Swedish dish on Fridays.
Really?
Yeah. We're not doing it, but quite a lot of people do actually have as a standard Friday taco.
So there are taco bars in Stockholm? Or?
No, that's a Swedish version that you do at home.
And the meat would be from where? From what would it be?
That would be minced meat.
So beef?
Yeah, beef.
Okay.
Yeah.
And free time?
Very, very Swedish
Yeah.
version of tacos, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite holiday destination? If you have I probably don't have a huge amount of holiday, but if you had to just have a beach holiday in Italy, where would you end up? You can't go to Piemonte, there are no beaches.
Have no experience of the beaches of Italy, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Most of the beaches would be fine.
Yeah, you probably don't have a lot of time when you're travelling as well.
No.
So where's your next trip?
Next trip is to Australia, but that's private over New Year's
Next
Eve.
work trip?
Next work trip is going to Austria in January.
The next trip to Italy?
It's not planned yet.
Okay.
No.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
And what about your family? I mean, when you're at home, do you have wine every evening, or do you sometimes have a beer or a grappa or a spirit?
Well, absolutely don't have any wine every day, but a couple of days a week. Of course, at the weekend, very rarely do I drink spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of wine, what's your
beer is summer. Might have a beer on summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're having a rich meal and you need a red wine from Italy, what would you gravitate towards?
Any well-balanced, high-quality.
Oh, you're such a diplomat. Okay.
Has to be, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to see if I can pronounce your name properly again.
Yeah.
I want to say thanks to my guest today, Jonas Röjerman, Master of Wine, Head of Product Quality, Assortment and Purchasing Department from Sweden, the monopoly system Systembolaget.
Systembolaget.
And thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
And sharing with us your insights about the mechanics of getting wine from a foreign country into your market. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Right. Super. Thanks a lot. And that brings us to the close of yet another Italian Wine podcast interview. Before we conclude, we'll check in with Vinitaly International Academy Chief Scientist Attilio Scienza for our segment, Everybody Needs a Bit of Scienza. Via community, please send in your questions for the professor to answer on air.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Everybody Needs a Bit of Scienza, segment 2, Italian Wine Podcast. So this is when we get a question from the VIA community, and we ask Professore, our chief scientist, Attilio Scienza, directly. So today we have a very long-winded question from, non è questo, Franco Zhang, from China. I forget what part of China he's from. Italian wine promotion and education in China. And he sent a very long-winded question of pages and pages and streams of paper, but we have kind of distilled it in the following way. So he makes a reference to the law of number 82.06, Article 2, and number 238/2016, Article 6, which are two laws specifically used to describe international varieties. And his question is, can Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot be used up to 10% in Valpo blend? Rispondiamo un po' alla volta. Ok, so prima domanda. Questa era quella domanda.
Ho fatto una cosa unica, la risposta
ok. Allora ti faccio anche altre domande. So then his second question, more or less, is some other Italian varieties also used in Valpolicella brand, such as Sangiovese, which is listed in the Ammessi alla coltivazione per la provincia di Verona, di qui al Registro Nazionale della Varietà di Viti Approvato. So he's doing his homework. So, which rule applies to Sangiovese? What is the maximum usage? Should it be Sangiovese plus Oseletta up to 15%, or Sangiovese plus Cabernet Sauvignon plus Merlot up to 10%? Then he goes on, there are still some varieties used by wineries but not listed in the above table, such as Nebbiolo, blended in Giuseppe Quintarelli. So which regulation is applied to Nebbiolo? Same as Sangiovese? If Nebbiolo can be used in Valpolicella blend, does that mean any other variety also can be used, such as Primitivo or Nero d'Avola, etc.? It's kind of all over the place. I hope Changsha has understood the question. Ti hai capito la domanda?
Sì.
Ok, vai allora.
Le varietà internazionali come il Cabernet e il Merlot e il Sangiovese sono compresi tra i vitigni autorizzati alla coltivazione nella provincia di Verona e possono quindi essere utilizzati fino al 25% per produrre i vini DOC di OCG della Valpolicella. L'ultima modifica disciplinare è della fine del 2019, che ha soprattutto modificato i rapporti tra la percentuale di corvina e di corvinone. Nel vecchio disciplinare del 2016 si poteva usare il 50% di corvinone, ora si può usare dal 45 al 95%, quindi hanno direi dato la possibilità di fare quasi un vino di Valpolicella con il 95% del corvinone. Perché questa modifica? Perché ci si chiede come mai improvvisamente, dopo tantissimo tempo in cui era la corvina il vitigno, direi, ideale per fare il corvinone, per fare l'amarone, per la sua capacità di esprimere dei geni durante l'appassimento, dei geni di qualità durante l'appassimento, caratteristica che non hanno molti vitigni, solo la corvina, ma anche il corvinone che è imparentato con la corvina ce l'ha. Beh, la modifica è stata data in parte dal cambio climatico. Il corvinone è una varietà che ha un acino molto più grosso e purtroppo nelle annate molto calde la corvina che viene messa in appassimento ha dei tempi di appassimento troppo rapidi e quindi esce da quelli che sono i tempi del disciplinare, il quale prevede l'appassimento per un certo tempo. Se questi qua però appassiscono prima, di quell'uva appassita non rimane niente. Allora il corvinone si presta molto meglio a questo, perché è un acino molto più grosso, quindi perde meno acqua, si concentra di meno, o si concentra nello stesso modo ma in tempi molto più lunghi e quindi mantiene una maggiore freschezza. C'è un altro aspetto non trascurabile, che è quello della tolleranza all'esca. La corvina è un vitigno molto sensibile all'esca, che sta facendo delle stragi nei vigneti della Valpolicella. Il corvinone è meno sensibile, quindi è un vitigno più resistente. Qual è la tendenza in sostanza? Beh, la tendenza è di utilizzare praticamente quasi solo i vitigni veronesi, cioè di non usare più i vitigni internazionali, che sono il retaggio di una vecchia viticoltura. Cioè i vecchi vigneti per l'Amarone o per il Valpolicella o per il Ripasso avevano all'interno molte varietà, si coltivava anche Teroldico, si coltivava anche Croatina, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon. Erano consentito questa cosa fino al 25%. Adesso non si può fare ancora, ma il produttore di Valpolicella preferisce usare corvina, corvinone, ecco la Grondinella che rimane sempre un vitigno importante, e si usa di nuovo la Molinara, che è un vitigno che è stato abbandonato, e l'Oseleta. Ecco, questi saranno in futuro ormai le varietà che saranno utilizzate quasi esclusivamente per fare l'amarone, anche se dico è possibile utilizzare anche vitigni internazionali o comunque vitigni diversi da quelli veronesi.
Apprezzo molto questa domanda, anzi una serie di domande che ci viene mandato da Franco Zhang perché lui ha cercato fatto il tentativo di approcciare consorzi e varie organizzazioni, ma non ha avuto risposta, quindi finalmente penso che...
Io faccio parte del comitato ed ero presente quando è stata fatta la modifica
quindi okay, so we'll try to translate this for you, Franco, but finally you have an answer because he wrote to us saying, I know this is a boring question and it doesn't have much market value, but I have encountered this problem in my education experience in recent years in China. I tried to get the answer from different people and consortia, but wasn't successful. Perché lui dice che ha scritto e anche a diverse persone, consorzi, ma senza successo, quindi finalmente gli diamo qualche riscontro e siamo molto contenti. And Franco, we really appreciate your passion in promoting Italian wine, and let us know if we can be of help in any other way. Send your question to Professor Scienza. Like I said, everybody needs a bit of Scienza, and today Franco Zhang needed a little bit of Scienza today. So that's it for now for the segment. Everybody needs a bit of Scienza for Italian Wine Podcast. For the next time, until next time, alla prossima, arrivederci, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Please like us and recommend to other people for Italian wine culture and conversation. Keep that coming. Thank you very much. Ciao ciao, arrivederci.
Ciao. Adesso saluto per l'ultima volta, per questa volta, il nostro amico Monty. Non ti disturbiamo più. Ti diamo...
sì che lo disturberemo più avanti.
Ma avanti, non oggi, però oggi puoi andare a dormire tranquillamente e berti il tuo grande Brunello.
Ok, quindi... ciao Monty.
Ciao Monty.
Io non ho parole in più, non ho discorsi in più.
Listen to all of our pods on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and on ItalianWinePodcast.com. Don't forget to send your tweets to @ItaWinePodcast.
Di più non serve mai. Lasciami